The first thing I notice is the sound of the air conditioner. It hums like a trapped insect inside the ceiling. The second is the smell, disinfectant mixed with the faint sweetness of someone's cologne. I sit perfectly still because movement feels like weakness here. The table between us is so polished, I can see my reflection split in two by the folder Elliot Crane has just pushed forward. He leans back in his chair, confident, smooth. You understand this isn't personal, Aisha. It's simply where the company needs to go. His tone is polite, rehearsed, the same voice he uses during press conferences. I nod once but don't open the folder yet. The words on the cover read, Employee Transition Agreement. I have written those words for other people before. I used to design the communication templates for the Human Resources Department. I know exactly how these letters sound. Gentle but final. The clock on the wall ticks with perfect precision. Outside the glass wall, London glows in the dull silver of early afternoon. It's raining softly, the kind of rain that never stops but never really begins. I can see my reflection merged with Elliot's behind him, as if I'm already fading out of this place. 3 months compensation, he says. Extended health care, non-disclosure, and a recommendation letter from me personally. We want this to be as smooth as possible. He smiles again. His teeth are too white for this kind of talk. My phone buzzes once beside my notebook. I almost ignore it, but something inside me, the quiet instinct that has saved me more than once, makes me glance down. A message from an unknown number, don't sign anything. They're setting you up. My breath catches for a second. My eyes flick up at Elliot. He's still talking about restructuring, pretending to be sympathetic. I can't hear half of what he says because the blood in my ears has started to pulse louder than his voice. The message glows on the screen, small and cruelly calm. I look back at him and force a slow breath. Before I sign anything, I say, I'd like time to review the terms. He tilts his head slightly. Time isn't really necessary, it's standard procedure. I prefer to read before I agree, I reply. Elliot's jaw moves barely. We'd like to finalize this today. You'll understand that the board prefers closure. I run my fingers over the smooth folder. The paper feels warm, like it has been sitting here waiting for me. Then, behind Elliot, something catches my eye, a tiny red light near the bonsai tree on the shelf. At first, I think it's a reflection from the city lights, but it blinks, steady and rhythmic. A recording device. The realization settles like a stone in my stomach. They aren't just firing me, they're recording how I react. Helix policy gives 48 hours to review termination documents, I say quietly. Elliot's lips twitch. That policy applies to lower management. I meet his eyes. No, it applies to all employees. He opens his mouth to argue, but something flickers behind his professional calm. He knows I'm right. I used to write the internal copy for these policies. I know every line. The silence stretches. Finally, he exhales through his nose. Of course, if you'd like to consult your lawyer, that's your right. But Aisha, I would hate to see you make this adversarial. My hands tremble under the table, but my voice stays even. You recorded this meeting without my consent. That's already adversarial. For a second, the mask slips. That's for meeting records. Of course, I say softly, standing up, and I'm sure the records will show your empathy. I gather my notebook and phone, tuck them into my bag, and turn toward the door. My heart beats so hard it hurts. Aisha, Elliot says behind me, his voice lower now, the polished tone gone. You're making a mistake. I pause with my hand on the glass door. Maybe, I say, but at least it'll be mine. The hallway outside feels colder than the room. I can hear the faint murmur of keyboards, conversations, laughter that sounds rehearsed. Every step echoes through the marble floor like a drumbeat. People glance up as I walk past, not out of concern, but curiosity, like they're watching a colleague fade out of existence. By the time I reach the elevator, the tremor in my hands becomes a shake. I press the button and stare at my reflection in the polished steel. I look the same, but something invisible has shifted. When the doors open, I step inside. The air smells of static. The phone buzzes again. Another message. Leave the building, don't log in. They already cut your access. I'll explain soon. I don't know who this person is, but they know too much. My instinct screams to move. The elevator dings at the lobby. The guard, familiar and polite, nods at me. Leaving early, Ms. Norman. Just stepping out for a bit, I answer. My voice sounds distant, as if someone else is speaking for me. Outside, the city greets me with gray drizzle. I breathe it in like oxygen. My phone buzzes again in my coat pocket, but I don't read it yet. I keep walking down Bishopsgate, past the coffee shop where we used to brainstorm campaigns, past the glass tower that now feels like a stranger. When I finally stop, it's at a small public garden tucked between two buildings. The rain filters through the trees like static on old film. I sit on the nearest bench, open my phone, and stare at the message again. They're setting you up. It doesn't say who they are, but I already know. Rain gathers on the rim of the bench and slides down in silent beads. I tilt my face to the sky and let the water cool the heat behind my eyes. The messages sit on the screen like two small doors. I touch the first door and it opens again. Do not sign. They are setting you up. The second door waits. Leave the building, do not log in, they already cut your access. The phone starts to ring, unknown number. I let it ring once more as if hesitation can buy me a different reality than I answer. Aisha Norman, a pause, a woman's voice arrives steady and close. Ms. Norman, my name is Serena Vale. I am calling because you are in a process you did not choose. You just stepped out of a termination meeting. There was a microphone in the room. You noticed the red light. I sit straighter. The oak branches above me drip like a metronome. How do you know that? Because they used the same room last quarter, she says, and the quarter before. This is a pattern. Please do not go back upstairs. Walk to Cafe Atlas on Bishopsgate, 15 minutes. Bring nothing from Helix except what is already in your head. Who are you to Helix? I am not to Helix, she says. I represent former employees who also received folders and gentle smiles. 3 cases, same company, same script. I believe you're number 4. Her certainty steadies me more than comfort would. If this is real, my files are at risk. They were at risk the moment you sat down, she says. If you log in, you will confirm their control. If you move now, we may confirm yours. Can you walk? I stand and the bench leaves a dark shape on the back of my coat. I can walk. Good, do not take a Helix call. Do not answer a Helix text. I will meet you at Atlas. The call ends without goodbye. I study my reflection in the black glass of the phone. Rain turns my hair a deeper color and softens the outline of my face. For a second I see the conference table again, the bonsai tree, Elliot's careful hands, the printed line waiting for my name. I close my eyes and see the same room from above, like a floor plan drawn with thin ink lines. Chair, light, camera, door. The path out is a single stroke. I walk. The city is a sheet of small sounds, tires on wet stone. A bus sighing, the thin clack of a bicycle passing behind me. I count my breaths to keep my pace even. On the corner, a florist is sweeping petals from yesterday's bouquets into a shallow bin. They are still bright even in the gray light. I think of the deck I built for Lumen, how I matched color to feeling and feeling to action. How a single curve of a letter can tilt a human heart. The glass of the Helix Tower appears between buildings as I turn, then disappears again. I tell myself not to look back, and of course I do. The windows shine like 100 small eyes. I raise my chin and keep moving. Cafe Atlas sits where Bishopsgate bends toward light. Warm glass, gold letters on the door, a bell that rings like a memory when I push inside. The room smells of espresso and burnt sugar. The buzz of conversation covers me like a coat that fits. I choose a table in the corner that faces both the door and the counter. Old habit. I place my phone on the table and leave it face up. The screen shows a note I have not opened yet. Elliot's assistant Diane, 3 hours ago. Subject line only? Schedule update. I do not touch it. I watch the door. People enter, shake off rain, laugh, order. I try to make a shape for courage inside my chest. It helps to choose a small one. A square will do, 4 equal sides, 4 clear corners. Serena arrives 5 minutes early. I know it is her before she speaks because she scans the room the way I do. She carries a simple leather folder under one arm and an umbrella that has not quite dripped dry. Hair pulled back. No visible jewelry except a thin watch that looks like it tells the truth. Aisha, she says, and it is not a question. Yes, she sits, no flourish. She sets the folder down and does not open it. Thank you for coming. I did not have many good options left. You have more than you think, she says gently. But the first choice was the most important one. You did not sign. No, I say, I did not sign. A server appears and Serena orders 2 black coffees. She waits until we are alone again. I will not ask you to trust me in a single meeting. I will ask you to consider what you already know. Start with facts you can hold. I nod and count them out on the table with my fingertips. There was a recording device in the room. The agreement was prepared with my name already filled. My access is likely suspended. The performance decline is fabricated. Good, she says. Add one more. Your last 2 successes were removed from the shared drive. That was not a clerical error. It was per work. How do you have that level of detail? For now, accept that I do, she says. I will show you sources when we can protect them. There's also a pattern of similar exits. Same room, same language, same smiles. The only thing that changes is the name on the line. The coffees arrive. Steam swirls up like a small weather system. I wrap my hands around the cup and feel the heat travel into my bones. Why me? I ask. It comes out smaller than I intended. Because you are visible, Serena says. Because you built work that cannot be hidden without force. Because your file does not break quietly. And because you notice the red light. I let the words sit. They are heavy and they help. What happens next? We separate the story from the noise, Serena says. We decide what to preserve and what to let go. We protect your name. We find the pattern in their behavior. Then we decide where to pull. If we pull at the right thread, the fabric will want to come apart. I have drafts, I say. Personal notes. Photos of whiteboards. I keep copies of early versions because clients always ask to see the step before the step. Good, she says. Those are yours. Do not send them anywhere yet. We will talk through chain of custody. Do you have a personal cloud that is not tied to your Helix email? Yes. Change the password today, she says. Use a device that never touched a Helix network. Use a place that is not your flat. Create a copy. Encrypt it. Then put it somewhere you can forget about for a day. I breathe in. It feels like the first clean breath I have taken in hours. You are very sure. I am sure of the pattern, she says. And I am sure of you. May I ask one question? When did you first feel something was off? I look over her shoulder at the window. Rain has smeared the street into a painting. I think back through small moments that did not fit. A meeting where Elliot presented an idea that matched my notes from 2 nights before. A file that opened with a different author name than it had last week. A compliment that arrived with the soft weight of a stone. 2 months ago, I say. No, earlier. It was the first time he asked me to email a deck in PowerPoint instead of in our usual format. He said the board preferred it cleaner. The metadata changed when I exported. I told myself it did not matter. It mattered. Serena studies me for a long second, then gives a small nod, as if I have just confirmed a detail she needed for a larger map. This will get harder before it gets easier, she says. They will try to make you feel alone. Isolation is part of the method. When it arrives, name it. The feeling has less power when it hears its own name. I take a sip of coffee. It is rich and bitter and scalding at the edges. I let it burn a little. What do you need from me now? Resolve, she says, and patience. We start by documenting exactly what occurred today. Time, place, people, words that were used, details you can see with your eyes closed. We will write it down now while it is still bright. She opens the folder. Inside is a legal pad and a pen that looks heavy. She places both in front of me and waits. I look at the blank page. The line at the top asks for date and time. I write them slowly, let the numbers anchor me to the morning. Then I begin to describe the room. The hum of the air, the bonsai tree on the shelf, the way Elliot's hands made a small temple above the folder, the color of the ink on the signature line. How my name looked like a decision already made. Words come easier than I expect. The scene spills out in clean rows. When I reach the moment my phone lit with the first message, my hand pauses, then keeps going. I describe the red light. I describe my own voice when it said I would review with counsel. I write the sentence I did not say out loud in the room. I do not agree to silence. When I finish, my pulse has settled. The square inside my chest has held. Serena reads what I wrote without interrupting. She closes the pad with care and returns it to the folder. This is a good start. A couple near the counter laughs at a story I cannot hear. Someone pushes the door and the bell rings again. The rain has softened into mist. Serena stands. Part of this will require other people. You will meet them when it is time. For today, go somewhere that does not feel like work and does not feel like home. Change your passwords. Start the copy of your personal archives. Eat something. Sleep for at least 4 hours before you decide anything else. I rise with her. And tomorrow we begin to pull. She leaves with the same quiet she brought in. The bell rings and the door closes behind her. I sit for a while longer and finish my coffee. The cup leaves a ring on the table that looks like a small eclipse. Outside, the street is brighter. I step into it and the city lifts its damp face to me. The glass tower is a distant shimmer through the mist. I do not look away from it, but I do not walk toward it either. I open my phone and type a single line into a new note. It is not for anyone else. It is for the part of me that wants proof I was here. I did not sign. Then I put the phone away, turn my collar up against the soft rain, and start toward the place where I will change the first password. I leave Atlas with rain on my collar and a list in my head. Do not return to Helix. Do not use a device that touched their network. Copy what is mine. Change every gate that has my name on it. Simple instructions made of careful verbs. Move, protect, record. I walk 2 blocks without looking back and turn into the public library. The building smells of paper and clean dust. Quiet hangs in the air like a courtesy everyone agrees to keep. I choose a computer near a window and ask the clerk for a guest pass. She gives me a small card with a number and a faint smile that says I am just another person doing a normal thing on a normal day. I hold onto that smile like a small raft. I log in, new email, new password, then another. I change the lock on every door that bears my name. I open my personal cloud and create a folder called Old Rooms. I upload photographs of whiteboards and sticky notes, early drafts of decks that still smell like midnight, screenshots I took out of reflex when a sentence felt wrong after it left my laptop. I watch the progress bars climb and blink. The bars feel like breathing. When it is done, I log out and wipe the keyboard with a tissue because habit is a kind of armor. I leave the library and walk east to a small electronics shop that sells everything by the till. I buy a simple phone and pay in cash. The clerk activates it with the calm of someone who has done this 1,000 times. The phone wakes up with a blank screen and no history. I step outside and breathe easier. The drizzle lifts and the street shines like a polished floor. I lean on the rail of a small bridge and call Serena from the new number. She answers on the second ring. "Status," she says, and the word feels like a hand on my shoulder. Passwords changed. Personal archiving started. New phone live. Good, do not text any Helix contact from that number. Do not answer calls you do not expect. I will route you to people you can speak to. For now, listen, you have support. I keep thinking about the recording device, I say. It was so obvious once I saw it, as if it wanted to be seen. Sometimes control enjoys its own reflection, Serena says. It will help us later, it proves intent. The water below the bridge moves with a slow insistence. I want to place everything I own on that surface and watch it go, then call it back when I am ready. You mentioned others, I say. People like me? I did, she says. You will meet 2 of them soon. A designer who keeps everything and a systems engineer who knows where the wires hide. Not today. Today you rest your voice and keep your eyes open. There is one more thing. You were emailed this morning by someone inside Helix. A woman named Diane. She is the executive assistant to your director. Did you open it? No, I only saw the subject line. Good, she says. Forward the message to your personal address and do not reply. We will open it together later on a clean machine. I take the new phone away from my ear and look at the Helix Tower far down the road. The glass throws back the pale sun like a shield. The building looks calm from this distance. That is how fortresses look until a wall is touched. I feel strange, I say. You feel awake, Serena says. There is a difference. If you need me, call. We move again this evening. The line clicks. The street grows loud again. A bus passes and leaves a breath of warm air that smells like old fabric and heat. I put the phone in my pocket and keep walking until my feet choose a tiny cafe I have never noticed. I order soup I cannot taste and bread I do not finish. I watch the door the way a swimmer watches the surface for a break in the water. When I leave, someone is waiting across the street. Black coat, hands in pockets, not moving. I tell myself it is nothing. A man waiting for a friend, a man waiting for a light. The light changes and he does not cross. I do not look at him again. I turn left and walk into a bookshop, then out the back into a lane that smells like rain and cardboard. I listen. My heart has learned this kind of listening from other parts of my life. The lane is empty. Still, I take a different route to the train. On the platform, I stand where the camera can see me. I am not hiding. I am traveling. None of this is a lie. The train arrives and the doors open with the soft breath of a stage curtain. I sit by the window. The city rolls past like a series of rooms opening and closing. I get off 2 stops later and choose a hotel by a station that is always busy. I pay for one night with a card that does not carry the Helix name. The room is small and clean. I pull the curtains and place both phones on the desk. The old one is quiet. The new one glows with potential. I take a shower that lasts longer than it should. The water is too hot and I stand in it until the skin on my shoulders turns red. When I step out, I feel like I stepped out of a story I did not write. I put on fresh clothes and sit on the edge of the bed with the note I wrote this morning still in my head. I did not sign. I say it out loud once to make it real in the room. The old phone lights up. 5 messages appear in bright bubbles. The first is from HR. It thanks me for my time and asks for my signature by end of day. The second is a notice that my system access is under review. The third is a calendar invitation to a meeting I am no longer invited to. The fourth is from an unknown colleague. Are you okay? The fifth is from Elliot. It is short. Let us discuss a graceful exit. Aisha, be reasonable. I put the phone face down and breathe through a count of 8. When I turn it over again, I take a screenshot of each message and email the images to the new address I made at the library. I do not reply. I power the phone off and watch the screen go black. The room is quiet. I hear only a soft vibration through the wall, as if the building has its own heart. I sit at the desk and open the new phone. There is one message from a number Serena sent earlier. It contains a name and a time and a place. Jade, 8:30. Workshop door at the back of the old Helix studio on Fleet. I look at the ceiling and let the names settle in me. Jade, the designer who keeps everything. The workshop door at the back. I can see it already. The cracked paint. The smell of ink and old wood. The silence of a room where things are made. The sky outside the window has shifted to a soft blue that belongs to evenings in this city. I write the time on a piece of hotel paper and put it in my pocket as if ink can keep it safe. I straighten the bed, even though it does not need it. I rinse the hotel mug and make tea I do not drink. I sit still for 10 minutes and imagine opening a door to a room that is not against me. At 8:15, I leave the hotel and walk toward Fleet. The crowds thin as the shops close. The old studio looks asleep behind its shutters. I follow the alley to the back where a small door waits in a frame that has seen too much weather. I knock once and wait. A moment later, the lock turns. The door opens enough for one eye and then opens the rest of the way. Jade looks like someone who understands why things break. Hair pulled back with a pencil, ink on her fingers, calm that has been earned. Aisha, she says. Yes, I answer. We have work, she says, and steps aside to let me in. The studio smells of varnish and the faint sweetness of ink. The lights are low, the kind of glow that keeps secrets. Jade closes the door behind me and sets the bolt. The click sounds like a promise that the rest of the world will stay outside for a little while. The room looks like it was built by someone who loves details more than order. Sketches on every surface. Notes taped to walls in patterns that only their owner could read. A model of a city made from old packaging boxes sits on the floor, the kind of thing that began as a joke and became a map. Sit, Jade says, pointing to a stool near a long work table. You don't have to talk yet, I'll make tea. I obey because silence feels like language here. The table in front of me holds pieces of her life, a camera, a soldering iron, a pile of printed photos with corners worn thin. Each object has its own gravity. Steam curls up from the kettle. She pours the tea into mismatched cups and passes one to me. You're the strategist, she says. Serena told me you'd come. I nod. You're the designer who keeps everything. She laughs softly. That's one way to put it. Hoarder of evidence sounds less poetic but closer to the truth. She takes a sip and studies me over the rim of her cup. You left today? This afternoon. Then you're still in the noise stage. The noise stage? When the company voice still echoes in your head, she says. The one that says it's your fault for caring too much. It fades, but not quickly. The tea is hot and floral, something with ginger. It steadies me. Serena said you had proof of what Elliot's been doing. Jade sets down her cup and pulls open a drawer. Inside are rows of labeled drives. She selects one marked Lumen Archive and plugs it into a small monitor. The screen flickers to life, showing folders organized by date and time. These are the raw concept files, she says. Air histories, color trials, early renders. Every trace has my signature embedded in the metadata. Then one day, those files vanished from the shared server and reappeared under his name. I thought I was losing my mind until Theo helped me trace the edits. The systems engineer? Yes, he can read time the way we read words. He proved the timestamps were falsified. On the screen, she opens a folder named Transfer Logs. A spreadsheet fills with rows of dates, access IDs, and file sizes. He downloaded my designs at 2:30 in the morning from his home IP. The next morning, he presented them to the board, said he'd been inspired by my direction. The way she says it makes my throat close. I see the same pattern, the same theft mirrored in her story. He used my Lumen framework the same way, I say. He changed the export format to remove authorship. Jade looks at me, and for a moment, the exhaustion between us feels shared enough to be familiar. That's why Serena brought you in. You have something he wants again. He already took everything once. He will need it again, Jade says. The product launch is next month. He can't finish it without your data. He will try to draw you out, maybe through colleagues, maybe through someone pretending to help. I think of Diane's email waiting in my inbox. The thought chills me. Jade notices. You already got a message, didn't you? I nod. This morning, I didn't open it. Good, Diane is safe, but her account is. They monitor everything she sends. Serena and I have been trying to reach her another way. She taps the keyboard and the screen fills with photos, snapshots of people in offices, hallways, cafes, all Helix employees. These are everyone who left the company after a creative dispute in the past 3 years. There are 16 of us in total. Some signed NDAs. Some didn't survive the silence. The rest are waiting. Waiting for what? For someone current to speak, she says. You're the first who didn't sign. I stare at the names and feel a slow tightening inside my chest. Each name is a version of what I could become if I stay quiet. So what now? Jade looks toward the ceiling, as if the right answer might be hidden in the pipes. Theo's coming tonight. He doesn't like to talk in open spaces, so he uses the back window. Don't be alarmed if you hear something. A faint creak sounds from the corridor as if summoned by her words. The light from the hallway shifts. Jade doesn't move. That's him, she says. A tall figure appears in the doorway, hood damp from the rain. He carries a backpack heavy with cables. His eyes sweep the room once before he relaxes. This is Aisha, Jade says, the one Serena told you about. Theo nods at me, then drops the bag on the floor. You're the strategist, good, we need one. He pulls a small device from his pocket and waves it slowly around the room. The device hums and clicks. We're clear, he says. No transmitters. Jade gestures to the stool beside mine. She knows about the project thefts. Theo unzips his bag and sets up a laptop that looks older than both of us. The screen shows a string of moving numbers that make no sense to me. Elliot's account activity for the past month, he says. He's been logging into the system from 2 locations at once. That means he has a shadow terminal. We're trying to find it. Shadow terminal? A private node built on top of the Helix mainframe. He uses it to rewrite logs. Most of it is clean, but I caught traces. He opens a folder labeled Ghostline. This is where he hides his footprints. Jade leans closer. Show her the ping from Meridian. Theo nods and clicks. A small window opens with a network trace. Lines of code dance across the screen like static. 3 outgoing transmissions last week, he says. Destination, Meridian Strategies. The name hits like a memory. That's our competitor, I whisper. They were bidding for the same contract as Lumen. Exactly, Theo says. He sent them prototype data in exchange for private deposits. It's corporate espionage, and he's sloppy. I can feel my heartbeat in my throat. The air tastes metallic. Why hasn't anyone caught him? They never look where he hides, Theo says. He built the systems. He knows how to bury evidence under paperwork and policy. But if we align the access logs with financial records, it becomes visible. That's where you come in. Me. You know the structure of his campaigns, the language he uses to sell them. We need to link stolen creative assets to his financial gain. That connection will bring the board to its knees. Jade looks at me with a spark of something that might be hope. Are you ready to fight? I think about the room in Helix where I nearly signed my silence, the smell of stale air and fear. I remember the voice that said, be reasonable. I look at the data glowing on the screen, at the faces of people who lost everything, at Jade and Theo who chose to stay in the shadows and still keep their integrity. Yes, I say quietly. I am. The rain starts again outside, harder this time. It drums against the windows and fills the room with sound. Theo disconnects the drive and pockets it. We'll meet again tomorrow night, he says. Different place. Serena will send you details. Jade walks me to the door. Once you step out, the city will feel different, she says. It's the same city, but you'll see the cracks. Don't let them scare you. They're how the light gets in. Outside, the alley is slick and shining. I pull up my collar and breathe in the cool air. Somewhere above, the Tower of Helix still glows against the clouds, a lighthouse built by liars. I look up at it and feel no fear this time, only clarity. I whisper to the night, you took my voice once. Not again. Then I walk toward the streetlights and the long work ahead. The city wakes early, but I wake earlier. The rain has stopped, leaving the air raw and metallic. I check the burner phone and find a single message from Serena. Breakfast, 7:30, same cafe. Bring nothing you cannot lose. By the time I reach Atlas, the sun is a faint smear behind the clouds. Serena is already seated near the back, a newspaper folded next to her tea. She nods at me but doesn't smile. They moved quickly, she says. Lix announced a restructuring overnight. Half your division is being reassigned, the other half under review. That's how he cleans up evidence, I say. She pours tea into a spare cup and slides it toward me. Theo confirmed that Elliot's ghost terminal is active again. Jade found a trail leading to an internal communications group named Aurora. We think it's where he coordinates his internal informants. Informants, I repeat. So there are others working for him. Some willingly, some not. Fear is a currency in places like Helix. She takes a sip, eyes never leaving mine. Before this is over, you'll have to decide who to trust. I look out the window. The city looks harmless in the morning. Commuters with coffee cups, buses sighing to a stop, everything pretending to be ordinary. You've done this before, I say. How does it end? Usually with silence, Serena says. Either theirs or mine, but this time feels different. When she leaves, she slips a small envelope under my cup. Inside is a note written in clean, precise handwriting. Fleet Studio was compromised. Meet at new site, Docklands, Warehouse 17, 2100. I pocket the note and spend the day walking. Every reflection in a window looks like someone watching. I pass Helix headquarters once, just long enough to see new posters in the lobby about creative integrity and shared vision. The irony makes me smile. By evening, I reach the Docklands. The air smells of salt and iron. Warehouse 17 sits at the edge of the river, its door half-rusted, its windows covered with grime. Inside, the lights flicker to life one by one. Theo is there first, crouched over his laptop like a mechanic fixing an invisible engine. We changed locations, he says without looking up. Too many eyes near Fleet. Someone accessed Jade's backup server this morning. Was it Elliot? He shrugs. Maybe someone feeding him. Jade arrives a few minutes later, her hair pulled into a tighter knot than usual. She looks tired but determined. Serena says we have to move faster. The board meeting is in 5 days. Elliot plans to present the Lumen project as his cornerstone. That's the project he stole from both of us, I say. Theo connects a drive to the screen. A cascade of files opens, emails, call logs, payment records. This is the network, he says. Every name he's manipulated or discarded in the last 3 years, 19 people. He built his empire on them. I study the list. Names I know, names I've heard whispered in hallways, names that disappeared. My throat tightens. We can't just expose him, we need to prove intent. That's what we're doing, Jade says. Each file tells a story, each story matches the next. We're weaving a net he can't escape. Theo zooms in on one entry. This one matters. The screen shows an internal chat log. A message from Elliot. Aisha's framework could redefine the client's branding. Once she's gone, we'll rebrand it under executive strategy. I stare at the words. The familiarity of my name and his tone makes me feel like I'm being dissected. He's been planning my removal for months, Theo nods. And not just yours, look at this. He pulls up more messages. Theo's too curious about access logs, move him to peripheral tasks. Then another, Jade's backups exceed protocol limits. Audit her drives quietly. I glance at Jade, her jaw is tight. He was watching all of us. And now, Theo says, he's watching nothing. I cut his hidden feed 10 minutes ago. How? I changed the digital fingerprint of his ghost terminal and mirrored it to our system. He thinks he's logging in, but every keystroke now belongs to us. The satisfaction is sharp and dangerous. What happens when he realizes? He'll panic, Theo says, and when he panics, he makes mistakes. Jade paces the floor, the sound of her boots echoing in the cavernous space. We need to prepare for that. Panic makes people unpredictable, and Elliot still has friends on the board. I can handle them, I say. They trust data and performance. If we present both, they'll listen. Theo closes his laptop. You'll need something they can't deny, something visual. You're the strategist. What story do you tell? I think about all the campaigns I've built, the narratives that sell hope, the slogans that make lies sound like belief. For once, I want a story that tells the truth. We show them what happens when creativity becomes currency, when talent is traded like stock. Jade nods slowly. Then we make it look like one of his presentations, the same format, the same polish, but every slide is evidence. Theo grins. We can even use his own graphics. The plan forms itself in the air between us. I see it clearly, the irony, the precision, the inevitability. We call it the network, I say, because that's what he built, a network of stolen voices. Jade writes the name on a scrap of paper and pins it to the wall. The network, she repeats. It fits. Theo checks his watch. It's almost 9. Serena will want an update. I nod. Tell her we're ready. He makes the call, voice low and efficient. I wander toward the window. The river is black glass, the lights from the city breaking across it in fractured gold. For the first time in weeks, I feel something close to strength. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I see movement, a reflection that doesn't belong. A figure across the water, half hidden by shadows, watching, not moving. Theo ends the call. She's sending backup, he says, someone to help with legal structuring. Did she mention who? He shakes his head. Only that it's someone inside. The figure on the far bank turns away, disappearing into the dark. I don't mention it, not yet. Tomorrow, Jade says, pulling the light cord, we start building the network. As the warehouse sinks into shadow, I feel the edges of the next battle already forming. Somewhere in the dark, Elliot Crane is still smiling, still believing he's untouchable. He won't be smiling much longer. The next morning begins like a hangover from a war that hasn't ended. I wake to the sound of the city coughing itself alive, trains, horns, footsteps on wet pavement. The air in my hotel room tastes like dust and metal. I sit on the bed for a long minute, counting my breath, reminding myself that I still have one. By 9, I'm back at Warehouse 17. The morning light turns the concrete floor into a gray mirror. Jade is already there, kneeling beside a projector and a row of cables. Theo works silently beside her, surrounded by a fortress of monitors. The room looks like a hybrid between a studio and a crime lab. Jade waves a greeting with a wrench still in her hand. Coffee, in the thermos. It's terrible, but it's honest. I pour a cup and walk over. Did you sleep? Not much, she says. Theo found something last night. Tell her. Theo looks up, his eyes rimmed red. Elliot sent a private message to the board at 2 a.m. It included a file named Lumen Reloaded. That's the presentation he plans to reveal at the conference next week. My stomach knots. He's accelerating the launch? Yes, probably sensed movement. He taps the screen. The email's metadata shows it was sent from his ghost terminal. The copy is on our server now. We can open it if you're ready. Jade lowers the lights. The projector hums to life and the first slide appears on the far wall. Lumen, a vision for tomorrow. Presented by Elliot Crane, Chief Executive Officer. The next slide shows images I know by heart, the color palette I built, the gradient born from my sleepless nights. Every word, every transition, every layout is mine, except for the name at the bottom. I whisper it anyway. He used everything. Jade looks at me gently. We'll use it back. Theo scrolls through the deck. With each slide, anger burns a little hotter. Then, halfway through, the text shifts from design language to financial projections. Lines of numbers, revenue streams, profit margins. Theo freezes the screen. Here. He zooms in on a table of payments marked consultancy expenses. A column of numbers, small but frequent, flows to a shell company named Meridian Strategies. He's paying them for stolen work, I say. Theo nods. If we follow that trail, we can connect Helix's public success to private theft. But we need timing to match, every transfer tied to a stolen asset. Jade pulls a thick binder from her bag and slaps it onto the table. Already ahead of you, dates, projects, and signatures from everyone he erased. She flips through the pages. Every victim has a story. We line them up and the pattern screams for itself. I sit down and run my fingers along the pages. 19 names, 19 careers buried under false reports. We'll make them visible again. Theo nods toward his computer. The plan's simple. At the summit, he'll use this presentation. But our version will override his when it reaches slide 24. That's where the real data plays. Jade grins. Poetic justice. I ask, what's on slide 24? Theo opens the last file. It's a video montage, fragments of meetings, emails, voice clips. Elliot's voice echoes from the speakers. Talent is raw material. I turn it into profit. Another clip follows. No one remembers who built the blueprint, only who puts the plaque on the door. My pulse quickens. That's enough to destroy him. Jade leans against the wall. It's not enough to destroy him. We need to change the system that allowed him. Before I can answer, the warehouse door rattles. Theo's head snaps up. Jade's hand moves to the light switch, but a familiar voice calls out. It's Serena. Relief floods the room. Serena steps in wearing a gray coat, her expression unreadable. We're short on time, she says. The board has advanced the summit by 2 days. Elliot wants to control the narrative before rumors spread. How do you know? Theo asks. Because one of the directors just called me. You have contacts on the board, I ask. I have a client, she says simply. A silent ally. They want this done cleanly. Cleanly, I repeat. There's nothing clean about this. Serena sighs. I know, but the cleaner it looks, the harder it is to deny. That's why we need to make it irrefutable, data, audio, witnesses, motive. And we need one person to stand in the open. They all look at me. Jade says softly, you're the only one still on record as an active Helix employee. They can't dismiss you as an outsider. For a long moment, no one speaks. I think of the last 6 years, the late nights, the pride I once felt walking through those glass doors. Now all of it feels like a past life lived by someone else. If I stand there, I say, I won't be able to go back. Serena nods. That's the point. The projector flickers, and for a heartbeat, my reflection overlaps Elliot's face on the screen. 2 halves of the same frame, creator and thief. All right, I say. Then we start building. We work through the afternoon. Jade edits slides until the mouse trembles in her hand. Theo writes code like a musician plays a crescendo. Serena paces, dictating legal notes into her phone. I craft the narrative, line by line, turning rage into rhythm. By sunset, we have the skeleton of the presentation, the weapon disguised as tribute. Theo runs a test. The projector flashes white, then begins to play the first half of Elliot's stolen deck flawlessly. When slide 24 arrives, the override activates and the wall blooms with truth, names, timestamps, money trails, voices. In the final frame, Elliot's recorded confession plays again, slower this time, the words heavy with their own weight. I turn dreams into profit. Jade exhales. Perfect. I nod, though my chest feels hollow. It's only perfect if it works. Serena checks her watch. It will, but we have to move the files tonight. We can't risk them sitting on this system, too traceable. Where do we put them? I ask. Theo smirks. Back where they came from. He connects a drive, and I watch as the files begin to upload not to Helix's servers, but to Elliot's ghost terminal. The progress bar climbs slowly, 12%, 47%, 88%. Jade leans closer. He'll think it's his own upload, Theo nods. Until it's too late. Once the summit feed goes live, the system will call his terminal for the data. It'll pull our version instead. Beautiful, Serena murmurs. When it finishes, Theo disconnects the drive and tosses it into a small metal bin. He pours lighter fluid over it and lights a match. The plastic melts into a dark, acrid curl of smoke. No one speaks. The only sound is the hiss of fire eating evidence. When the last ember dies, I look at each of them, the lawyer, the coder, the artist. Tomorrow we face him. Jade smiles faintly. And the world will finally see who he really is. I glance toward the window. Across the river, the Helix Tower glows again, its logo bright against the night. I can almost hear Elliot rehearsing his speech, the same practiced tone he used in that room when he said, "It's not personal." He was right about one thing. It's not personal anymore. It's justice. Morning rises over London like a secret half-told. The river glows the color of tarnished silver, the skyline sharpening itself against a pale sky. I have not slept. My thoughts run in loops, building and unbuilding speeches I might have to give. By the time I leave the hotel, the city is already awake, loud, and indifferent. I blend into it the way a spy blends into a crowd. No one should notice the person carrying a storm in her chest. Warehouse 17 is colder today. Theo sits at the center of his cables, muttering lines of code. Jade is sketching something on the wall in blue chalk, her hands moving fast. Serena stands by the window, talking quietly into a headset. She ends the call when she sees me and crosses the room. Elliot booked his flight to Geneva, she says. He's presenting Lumen at the summit tomorrow night. He pushed the launch 2 days early. I set my bag on the table. He knows we're close. Or he's bluffing, she replies. Either way, we have less than 24 hours. Jade turns from the wall, chalk dust on her fingers. We can finish the deck in time, but we need something more than data. We need a way to make them feel the theft. I understand what she means. Facts alone won't burn through an audience of executives. Emotion will. Then we tell it like a story, I say. We build a blueprint of how he steals, step by step, and let them recognize themselves inside it. Theo looks up. Show them the process, not just the result. Exactly. Every manipulation, every message, every stolen line. Serena nods slowly. The blueprint of a thief. Jade draws a circle on the wall and divides it into sections. Stage 1, she says, writing in large letters. Identification. He finds talent that threatens his position. Stage 2, I add. Isolation. He separates them from their allies, gives them projects that seem important but have no visibility. Stage 3, Theo continues. Extraction. He copies their files, manipulates timestamps, erases history. Stage 4, I finish. Erasure. He removes them from the company, replaces their names with his. Jade steps back and studies the diagram. The blue chalk dust drifts to the floor like smoke. Now we give each stage a face. We spend hours combing through files. Theo projects data onto the wall, one betrayal at a time, names and dates and quiet acts of cruelty. Jade overlays photographs, emails, designs stripped of signatures. I narrate, crafting the rhythm of the story not as accusation but revelation. When the blueprint is complete, it looks almost beautiful. A cycle drawn in soft blue, lines connecting stolen work to stolen lives. In the center, Elliot's name like a pulse. Serena stares at it. This is your evidence and your speech, she says. The board will see the story before the authorities do. I nod. And Elliot will be watching when it plays. Theo disconnects a cable and frowns. He's online again. On the ghost terminal? I ask. Yes, but something's different. He's accessing the same storage we just used. It's like he's mirroring our upload. Jade looks alarmed. Can he see what we did? Not directly, Theo says, fingers racing over the keyboard. But he can sense a change. He'll think it's corruption in his files. Serena crosses her arms. We can use that. Let him believe he still controls the narrative. He'll walk into Geneva certain of victory. I move closer to Theo's screen. Can you trace his current IP? He nods. He's still in London. Then he hasn't flown out yet, I say. He's still playing chess. Theo looks up. Then we need to make the next move. Jade reaches for her camera. If he's in London, we can make sure he sees what we want him to see. Serena arches an eyebrow. Meaning? Meaning we leak something, Jade says. A small rumor about an upcoming internal audit. It will make him panic, try to control the narrative harder, and confirm our timeline. Serena smiles faintly. You two would make excellent criminals. Only when the law protects thieves, Jade replies. Theo taps a few keys. Leak sent, a whisper into the network. It should reach him within the hour. We wait. The room hums with machines and nerves. When the first notification pops up on Theo's screen, it's not from Elliot. It's from someone else, an internal contact, anonymous. The message reads, he knows about the warehouse. Leave now. Theo swears under his breath. He's not guessing anymore. Shut everything down, Serena orders. Jade pulls the cables free. I grab the drives, my heart racing. The projector dies mid-image, leaving only the blue chalk lines glowing faintly in the window light. We run. Outside, the air feels sharp enough to cut. A black car is parked across the street, engine idling. The driver's face is hidden by shadow. Serena grips my arm. Keep walking, she whispers. Don't look back. We move fast, pretending to be calm, crossing the street toward the underpass. The car stays still. Only when we reach the corner do the headlights flare, blinding white. The engine roars. Theo pulls us into the alley. The car speeds past, then disappears around the block. My hands are shaking, my breath shallow. Everyone okay? Serena asks. Jade nods. They didn't see our faces. Theo exhales hard. He's getting desperate. I look toward the direction the car went. The fear is real, but under it there's something colder, harder. Let him be desperate, I say. It means he's losing control. Serena's phone vibrates. She answers, listens, then looks at us. We have a safe place for the night. A contact near South Bank. We regroup there. We follow her through side streets, keeping to the shadows. Every step feels like walking through the edges of two worlds, the visible one that pretends to be normal and the hidden one made of secrets and betrayal. When we reach the flat, Serena locks the door and lowers the blinds. The room smells faintly of paint and sea air. I drop my bag on the couch and sit. Theo checks his laptop. No trackers, we're clear. Jade leans against the wall, arms crossed. He's scared of exposure. That's why he's hunting us. He wants to erase the threat before Geneva. I stare out the small window at the skyline. The Tower of Helix rises like a blade against the night. Then we don't hide, I say quietly. We finish the blueprint, we walk into Geneva, and we end this in front of everyone. Serena studies me for a moment, then nods. Tomorrow we leave London. No more shadows. Time to bring the truth into the light. The city hums below, unaware that its next sunrise will carry a reckoning. I press my hand against the cool glass and whisper to my reflection, a promise more than a prayer. You built the system that devours its own creators. Now it will eat you first. The safe flat is small and precise, like a room that was designed to be quiet. Serena moves through it with a purpose I am beginning to admire. She takes the legal pad from her bag and flips to the page where my notes from the cafe sit. We have the blueprint, she says. We have a timeline. We have people ready to testify. Now we need to tie motive to money in front of a live audience. I touch the corner of the page where my handwriting is soft from where I cross things out. We have the stolen deck and the transfers to Meridian, I say. Theo found the deposits. Jade has backups. That should be enough. Stats and sentiment together, Serena says. Numbers tell the story. The faces make them care. Jade moves to the tiny kitchenette and returns with 3 paper plates of cold pasta. It tastes better than it should. We eat without ceremony and talk in pieces. Names are dropped into the air and stick. Evelyn Hart, board member Davies, a partner at Meridian. Every name is a place where pressure might be applied or leverage found. Theo is already writing a list of contingencies on his laptop. He runs simulations of how the board might react if the video plays as planned. He calculates probability curves in a way that looks like fortune-telling for the technically inclined. If they cut the feed immediately, he says, we need a simultaneous press release. If they try to deny it, we need Diane's testimony to be ready. If security drags you out, we need witnesses in the center who will not let cameras leave the room. Who are the witnesses? I ask. The plan feels like a machine being built before my eyes. Serena lists names in a calm voice. Leona's friend in awards committee. A freelance journalist who owes a favor. a small group of clients who prefer transparency. And Diane, the assistant who sat in the audience of so many meetings and watched the mechanics of the place unfold. I think of her in the conference room, a quiet woman with a file in her hand, then later in the lobby, holding up that flash drive like an ordinary person holding a key. How do we get Diane to testify without ending her life? Jade asks. Her voice is practical, not cruel. She has an artist's eye for consequences. We protect her, Serena says. Relocate her for the hearing. Give her anonymity until she chooses to speak. We use the press and the presence of legal teams to keep her safe. The clock on the wall clicks toward midnight. Outside, the city slows into a low, constant hum. I have never felt the world so fragile and so full of potential at once. I think of the work I have done, the ideas that took nights and cups of coffee to lift into being. I think of how easily someone can sign a name and claim the weight of another person's labor. Tomorrow we travel to Geneva, Serena says. We arrive early, we position people, we make sure the tech team in the venue is one of ours. We plant the override in his deck. When he clicks to slide 24, the video plays. Then what happens to me on stage? I ask. My voice is small in the room, as if asking the question aloud might change the physics of courage. You stand, Serena says. You speak if they let you. You do not become hysterical. You do not become a martyr. You become the person who shows a chain of facts and asks the board one simple question. How much of Helix is built on stolen work? The clarity of the sentence steadies me. It is a script I can memorize and deliver. It is a weapon I can hold without hating what it does. Theo looks at me over the rim of his laptop. We tested the override 3 times. The only unknown is whether he has an offline backup. If he does, someone could try to cut the system. Then we make sure the story is everywhere at once, Jade says. If the feed dies, 1,000 phones will already be streaming it. The story will not fit into a room. We work until the first gray hints of morning find the street below, and the plan falls into place like the last piece in a complicated puzzle. There are still unknowns. There are always unknowns. But there is also momentum, and momentum is an ally. We part with a list of tasks. Serena will coordinate legal protection and press. Theo will be the ghost at the wires, ready to shove the truth into any slot it needs to fit. Jade will prepare the visual timeline and make sure the evidence is undeniable. I will rehearse the speech until muscle memory holds the lines. Before I go, Serena takes my hand. Her grip is dry, professional, but something like affection rests there. You may feel alone on that stage, she says. Expect it, but you will not be alone in truth. I leave the flat and cross the river while the sky makes the morning soft. People move in predictable patterns around me. Buses, joggers, dogs. I look at faces and wonder how many hands in all those pockets belong to people who built something and never saw their name on the plaque. At the station, I buy a newspaper because habit ties me to small, normal acts. There is a short piece about Geneva's summit. Nobody in the photo looks like a villain. They all smile with the same practice charm as Elliot. I fold the paper and keep it under my arm like a talisman. On the train, I practice my words quietly, first under my breath, then aloud. Each sentence becomes a tool. The line I return to is simple. This is not about revenge. This is about restoring truth. I say it until my tongue holds no clouded edges. We travel on separate paths to Geneva. Theo will route the override through a server that appears to be one of Elliot's own. Jade will bring the visual timeline on a drive disguised as a backup. Serena will meet with a contact in the Swiss press. Diane will be escorted into the crowd by trusted hands. Evelyn Hart will open the summit and introduce Elliot. The stage is set. As the plane lifts, London shrinks into a collage of roofs. I press my forehead to the window and close my eyes. My throat tightens because I know once we arrive, there will be no unringing the bell. The words will be out. The world will see. Some people will be freed. Some people will lose everything. Justice will not be tidy. It is never tidy. The flight crosses the channel and then the continent. I make a list of the names I cannot lose. My list is short. Serena, Theo, Jade, Diane, the 19 who were erased, my own name at the top like a question. I imagine Elliot in his office, practicing how to look surprised, practicing how to be indignant. I imagine the moment when he will click to the slide he thinks changes the room. I imagine the machine of his smooth voice dying with the sound of his own words. The image steadies me. When the plane begins its final descent, my hands are folded in my lap and trembling a little. The city below is small and bright, roads like veins. It feels like a map of everything we have left to fix. I take a breath and tell myself that I am ready. We land. The air smells cold and foreign. The Summit Center is a modern building of glass and light, people arriving with the ease of those who move through the world with power. I look at them and feel the distance between their confidence and the quiet fatigue in my bones. I walk toward the entrance with the rest of the crowd, holding my documents in a folder that is heavy with truth. I am aware of how I look. A woman in a dark suit carrying a small, steady thing. I think of the red, blinking light in the conference room back home and of the bench in the park where I read the first warning. I think of all the small moments that piled into this one. The security lines part. We move forward. The doors open. The speakers begin. The stage lights are bright enough to make you feel seen and small at once. I wait in the wings, breath steady, heart loud. Evelyn Hart steps onto the stage and the room claps. She is graceful and precise and the kind of person who knows how to carry responsibility. She speaks about innovation and integrity, and then she introduces Elliot. He strides forward with the practiced ease of a man who believes he has earned his place. The audience leans forward in expectation. I stand in the second row, aware of the cameras pointed at his face and not mine. The first slides click by, all of it polished. My mouth is dry. Serena's hand presses into my palm for a quick second and then is gone. Theo watches the room from the back, a silent guardian. Jade sits 3 rows back, her posture rigid. Diane sits beside her with her hands folded in her lap. Elliot moves through the deck like a man narrating a myth about himself. He clicks as if conducting a ritual. Slide 23 arrives with a flourish. I feel the air in my lungs expand. Slide 24 is coming. Somewhere backstage, a technician clutches a tablet, waiting for my cue. Theo's signal will be a tiny pulse in the feed. He clicks. The screen darkens, and for a moment I think he has noticed. Then the video begins. Elliot's voice is in the room, but it is his voice recorded and stripped of triumphant music. The images follow documents, timestamps, wire transfers. The room begins to change the way the light falls on faces. The audience becomes a living jury. When the montage ends and the final frame fades to black, I stand. My knees do not shake. My voice is steady. I say the line I have practiced until my mouth remembers it by heart. This is not about revenge. This is about restoring truth. A silence so complete it feels like falling spreads across the room. Then cameras rise, people move, and the story we built begins to run like a river out of a dam. The rest is already in motion. The sound that follows the silence is not applause. It is a thin collective gasp, like the room has forgotten how to breathe. On the stage, Elliot's face is frozen between shock and calculation. The giant screen behind him still shows his own words in white letters. Talent is raw material. I turn it into profit. He tries to speak, but the microphone catches only static. The lights are too bright on his skin. I watch him blink against them like an insect against glass. Somewhere in the back row a camera clicks. Then another. The spell of silence breaks. Serena moves first. She is already halfway to the media table, talking to the coordinators in the calm, commanding tone of someone who knows the law better than they do. Jade rises in the crowd, holding her phone high, recording every reaction. Theo's signal light flashes green on the corner of the screen. The override is complete. It cannot be undone. Elliot clears his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen," he begins, forcing a laugh. "It appears there's been a technical error." Our system, but the audio keeps playing, sliding seamlessly into the next clip. His voice again, this time darker. "They'll never prove it. It's all under NDA." The audience murmurs. Someone in the front row stands up. The cameras multiply like eyes. I stay standing because sitting would make me complicit. "There is no error," I say. My voice is calm and loud enough to cut through the noise. "Everything you just saw is real. The data came from your servers. Every file, every transfer, every signature belongs to the man on that stage." For a heartbeat, all movement stops. Elliot turns toward me. Recognition flickers. He says my name like an accusation. "Aisha Norman." "Yes," I say. "The person you fired for being inconvenient." Security moves forward uncertain. Serena steps between them. "Touch her and this becomes criminal interference," she says. Her voice carries the force of legality. She is under council protection. The board members in the front row look pale. Cameras zoom. One reporter whispers into a headset, the words running through her microphone like an electrical current. Theo's voice crackles in my earpiece. "It's live everywhere. Mirror feeds, social platforms, investor channels. He can't stop it." I feel the shift in the room, that electric instant when disbelief tips into outrage. The board chair, Evelyn Hart, rises from her seat. "Mr. Crane," she says, her tone measured, public, lethal. "Is there anything you'd like to explain before we suspend the presentation?" Elliot straightens his jacket. He is trying to remember his training, his posture, his smile. This is a coordinated attack, he says. An employee with a grudge has manipulated company assets to fabricate. Serena interrupts. Fabrication requires imagination, Mr. Crane. What you did required only theft. Laughter, nervous but real, ripples through the room. Elliot's mask slips another inch. You think you can humiliate me? He snarls. You don't understand the scale of this. Helix is bigger than one person. That's exactly the problem, I say. Theo's voice again in my ear. Keep him talking. The financial logs are syncing live. 30 seconds until transfer completion. I hold Elliot's gaze. You built your empire on other people's ideas. Every time you erased a name, you took a piece of someone's life and sold it as your own. He laughs, a sharp, ugly sound. You think the board cares who made the art? They care who makes the profit. I nod once. And now everyone else knows it too. The screen flickers to a new frame. A chart appears, money moving from Helix accounts into Meridian Strategies. Theo's code animates the flow like blood through veins, bright red lines pulsing across the map. The evidence fills the air, unarguable. Elliot lunges toward the control panel. Cut the feed, he yells. Cut it now. No one moves. Serena's team blocks the stage entrance. Evelyn signals the technicians. Do not touch the system, she says. This presentation is now part of an internal investigation. The room erupts into noise, shouts, cameras, the sound of walls breaking in real time. Elliot looks around, realizes he's alone in the center of a machine that no longer obeys him. He steps back, and for the first time I see fear instead of confidence. The slide changes again. Photos appear, faces of the 19 employees, each accompanied by their work. Jade's designs, Theo's code, Leona's prototypes, my Lumen framework glowing in the colors I chose long ago. This is the network, I say into the microphone. The real one, not built on profit, built on people. Applause doesn't come right away. The moment is too heavy for it. What comes instead is a collective exhale, a murmur, a sound like humanity waking up. Then one clap, another. And then the room breaks open with the sound of belief. Theo whispers in my ear again. It's done. The system, mirrored to every major outlet. He can't erase this even if he burns the servers. Serena reaches me through the crowd. We need to move, she says softly. Security will close the floor. I step away from the podium. Reporters push forward, their questions a blur. How long did you know? How did you find the evidence? What happens next? I answer only one. The truth was always there. It just needed a stage. We leave the building through the service corridor while the chaos grows behind us. Outside, the air is sharp with winter. People are already gathered at the entrance, holding up phones, screens reflecting the story as it spreads. Theo joins us, breathless but smiling. The stock feed is crashing. Investors are demanding an emergency session. It's beautiful. Jade appears beside him, eyes bright. They'll remember this day. Serena looks at me. And so will you. I look back at the glass tower behind us, where Elliot once stood untouchable. Through the reflection, I can see him still on the stage, surrounded by flashes and microphones, drowning in his own words. Justice doesn't need perfection, I say quietly. Only exposure. We walk toward the waiting car. The sound of sirens begins to echo from the far end of the street. In the rearview mirror, Geneva glitters like a city built of light and consequence. The stage is behind us now, but the story has only begun to unfold. We drive in silence for a long time. The city lights drift past the window like small, uncertain stars. Serena sits beside me, phone in hand, voice low as she speaks to someone in legal. Theo rides in the front, typing rapidly on a tablet balanced on his knee. Jade leans against the door, watching the blur of the road. Each of us is quiet, not because there's nothing to say, but because we all understand that the next words might change what the truth becomes. When we cross the bridge out of Geneva, Serena ends her call. Interpol's Financial Crimes Unit has opened an inquiry, she says. They want to interview all of you in the morning. Jade exhales. We're witnesses, not suspects. Both, for now. They'll need to verify chain of evidence. We've just exposed one of the biggest corporate frauds in the sector. You don't pull that off without consequences. Theo closes his tablet and turns around. The feeds are still spreading. Every network has the clip. Hashtags, investor chatrooms, legal analysts, it's everywhere. Serena's expression softens for a moment. Good, that's the shield. The more public it is, the harder it becomes to bury. Outside, the road curves along the river. Geneva glows behind us, still awake with the story. I rest my head against the window. My reflection looks both younger and older than I remember. Maybe truth steals time from you. Maybe it gives it back. We reach a small inn near the outskirts of the city. It's old, quiet, the kind of place where travelers still sign their names in ink. Serena checks us in under aliases and leads us to two small adjoining rooms. The hallway smells faintly of wood smoke. In my room, I drop my bag on the chair and take the first full breath since the stage. My hands are still shaking, but not from fear, from release. I sit on the edge of the bed and watch the news on the television. Elliot's face fills the screen. The banner below reads, Helix CEO under investigation for industrial espionage. His photo has that polished calm of men who believe the storm will pass if they keep their smile steady. The reporter continues. Sources close to the investigation suggest that multiple whistleblowers are cooperating with international authorities. The company has suspended trading pending review. I turn the volume down. The words no longer need to be loud. They exist now outside of me. A soft knock on the door. Jade enters, carrying 2 mugs of tea. She sits beside me without speaking and passes one over. For a few minutes, we drink in silence. The tea is bitter but real. After a while, she says, I thought I'd feel triumphant. You do, she shakes her head. Just emptied, like we gave away something we can't get back. We did, I say, but maybe that's the point. Justice takes what pride can't keep. She leans back, eyes on the ceiling. You were steady up there, I don't know how. I just decided shaking would waste time. Jade laughs softly. You sound like Serena. We sit until the mugs go cold, then she stands. They'll want statements in the morning. Try to sleep. After she leaves, I lie down and close my eyes. The images play behind my eyelids, the audience's faces, Elliot's eyes, the moment the truth filled the room. It replays not as memory, but as proof. Proof that silence was the weapon he counted on most, and we broke it. I wake before dawn to the sound of Serena's voice in the next room. She's on another call. Yes, she's saying, we have full documentation. All backups secured. No, she's safe. They can't touch her now. A pause. I understand, but the board's involvement runs deeper than Crane. Keep looking. The last sentence makes my stomach tight. It means there's still another layer. By the time she ends the call, I'm already dressed. Who were you talking to? I ask. A contact inside the European Commission, she says. They're tracing the funds from Meridian. The path doesn't end with Elliot. It leads higher, possibly into Helix's parent conglomerate. Higher, I repeat. You mean the council. She nods. The one that signs off on every acquisition, the same one that promoted him. The realization hits with quiet force. So Elliot wasn't the architect, he was the instrument. Exactly, Serena says, which means someone else was always pulling the strings. Theo joins us with his laptop open, screen flickering in the dim light. The data confirms it. Meridian isn't just a front. It's partially owned by a holding firm registered in Luxembourg, Helix Equity Group. Same directors, same signatures. Jade steps into the doorway, rubbing her eyes. So we exposed the thief, but not the system that trained him. Serena looks at me. This is the part they never show in movies, the aftermath. The system doesn't collapse when one man falls. It reshapes itself. If you want this to end for real, we have to keep going. I look out the window. The sky is pale gold, the river quiet. I think about the blueprint we drew on the wall in chalk. The stages of theft, the cycle of erasure. Maybe there's one more stage we didn't name. Reconstruction. Then we start again, I say. From the top. Serena studies my face. You don't have to. You could step away now, take the settlement, rebuild your name. The world already sees you as the hero. I don't want to be the hero, I say. I want to make sure no one has to be me. Theo smiles faintly. Then welcome to Phase 2. The rest of the day unfolds in meetings with investigators. We give statements, hand over drives, sign papers. Each question feels like a thread pulling at old wounds. But for every answer, I feel lighter. It is not revenge anymore. It is a record. By afternoon, Elliot is officially taken into custody. The footage circulates online, him in a gray suit, head down, surrounded by cameras. People cheer in the comments. Others defend him. That's how the world balances itself between forgetting and accountability. In the evening, we walk along the river. Geneva is quieter now, the chaos absorbed by headlines. Serena takes a call from London. The board is collapsing, she says when she hangs up. Evelyn Hart just resigned. She's agreed to testify. Theo nods. Then we keep pushing until the council breaks. Jade looks at me. And you? I watch the water move beneath the bridge. I'll do what I always did. Tell stories. But this time, the story fights back. Night settles. The lights of the city reflect on the water like fragments of everything we've lost and gained. I think of the first message on my phone, the red light on the shelf, the folder with my printed name. I think of how far that moment reached, how it turned into this. When we reach the corner, Serena's phone buzzes again. She checks the screen, frowns, and shows it to me. An email, anonymous. The subject line reads, "Another company. Same pattern. Need your help." The words feel both new and inevitable. I look at her, then at Jade and Theo. The wind carries the chill of another beginning. I smile, tired but certain. "Round 2, I say. They nod, and in the glow of the streetlight I see it, the next fight already waiting. The truth isn't a finish line, it's a habit. Morning arrives like a verdict the sky has already signed. Geneva is quieter than last night, but the quiet feels watchful. We take separate cars to the federal building. The air inside is dry, the kind that draws the moisture out of your skin and your certainty. Serena guides us through metal detectors and corridors the color of decisions. In a small interview room with a window that does not open, I give my statement. The recorder's red eye watches me without blinking. I describe the conference room at Helix, the red light by the bonsai, the emails, the transfers, the faces. When the investigator asks how I obtained the files, I answer carefully and completely. When he asks why I did it, I say the only sentence that still makes any sense. Because the truth was there and no one else would carry it. By noon, we are released with instructions not to leave the city. Outside, the river glints as if it has its own agenda. Serena leads us to a cafe across the street where the tables are covered in heavy cloth and the waiters move like people who understand secrets. She places her phone between us and taps a message open. "Funds from Meridian have a parent," she says. "Luxembourg Holding. The name is Helix Equity Group. Their chair is Roland Ashford. I know the name the way you know a storm from the sound of thunder. I have seen it at the bottom of annual letters that sound like hymns to growth. He signs the praise when the numbers rise. He authorizes the method that made them rise," Serena says. "The money does not end with Elliot, it climbs." Theo leans in. Ghost terminal logs show outbound packets routed through a private network registered to Ashford's office. He was not just aware, he was upstream. Jade's fingers worry the rim of her cup. So tonight was not the end, it was the opening act. Serena's gaze meets mine. They will try to turn Elliot into a single firebreak. If we step back, the blaze will stop at him and the forest will stand like nothing happened. We sit with that for a while. The world outside looks ordinary enough to be insulting. Cars stop at lights. People adjust scarves. A child presses a face to the glass and draws a smile with a fingertip. My phone vibrates. Unknown number. I show it to Serena. She nods once. "Answer." "Aisha Norman," I say. A man's voice arrives smooth and warm, the sound of a hand placed on your shoulder to steer you where he wants you. "Ms. Norman, Roland Ashford, I had hoped we would speak sooner." He says my name like we are peers at a quiet dinner. Every part of me goes still. I cannot discuss an ongoing investigation. "Of course," he says, as if the word is a courtesy gift. "I'm at the Musée d'Art d'Histoire. There's a room here with a painting I think you would appreciate. You have 20 minutes to decide whether to see it." He ends the call. He does not leave a number. Serena listens as I recount the words. She thinks for less than a breath. "You go," she says, "but not alone." The museum is a white calm after the day's noise. The guard checks our bags with a politeness that feels foreign to the charge in my chest. We move through rooms of stone and light until a woman in a gray suit appears as if from a wall and says in a voice that never rises, "This way." He waits in a gallery where everything glows with old varnish. He is taller than I expected, elegant in a way that speaks in capital letters. When he turns, the smile is already in place. Pleasant, sympathetic, precise. "Aisha," he says. "May I call you Aisha? I saw your presentation last night. Impressive work, though misguided in its target." I feel Serena shift half a step behind me. I keep my voice level. "Then guide me." He gestures toward a portrait on the wall, a man in a chair, half his face in shadow, one hand on a book. "This is what leadership looks like in paint," Ashford says softly. "Half confession, half story. Boards do not fund dreams, Aisha. They fund outcomes." Elliot understood that. He executed aggressively, sometimes crudely, but he executed. "By stealing," I say. "By consolidating," he replies. "By preventing the chaos of unaligned talent. Do you know what kills companies? Not theft, friction." Serena steps forward. "Mr. Ashford, this conversation should include counsel for Helix Equity Group." He looks amused. "Counsel will draft the paperwork after we agree on the shape of the solution." His eyes return to me. "You want reform? I can give you a platform for it. A new office of creative integrity, real budget, real staff. You set policy across our portfolio." In return, you make a statement that your accusation against Mr. Crane was based on misinterpreted processes and the zeal of the moment. Not a retraction, a reframing. The word slides across the floor and tries to sit beside me. Reframing. I can feel the temptation in it, the way a tired body wants a chair. You are asking me to rename theft as process, I say. I am offering you the power to prevent it, he says. From inside, where it actually matters. Believe me, Ms. Norman, outrage is a marvelous accelerant, but policy is the engine. Jade's breath hitches. Theo does not move. Serena's face stays exactly where she put it this morning, centered and awake. I step closer to the portrait. The man in the chair watches me from the corner of his shadow. His hand on the book is elegant and careless, as if the book is an ornament. Did you authorize the ghost terminal? I ask without looking at Ashford. He does not pause. I authorized tools to ensure executive visibility. Did you approve paying Meridian to feed a competitor with our prototypes? Meridian is a strategy consultancy with complex engagements. Did you know Elliot would erase names? He smiles again, smaller this time. Names are less important than continuity. There it is, the sentence that turns the room. The portrait man's shadow looks deeper. I face him fully. You want me to bless continuity. I want you to help me civilize it. He glances at Serena. You can calculate what I am offering, Ms. Vale. Compensation, title, authority, public grace for everyone involved. We are very good at absorbing damage and calling it progress. The gallery is quiet enough that I can hear the soft buzz of the lights. I think of 19 faces on a wall. I think of Diane's hands folded in her lap. I think of the sentence I said into the microphone, the one that felt like a bridge between who I was and who I might be. This is not about revenge, I say, and it is not about titles, it is about restoring truth. And truth, he says gently, is expensive. Serena's voice is barely above a whisper. So is silence. His eyes sharpen only for an instant. For the first time, I see the edge beneath the polish. He inclines his head as if we have completed a transaction. You will consider it, he says. It is not a question. I already did, I answer, before you spoke. He studies me as if I am a line in a report that will not reconcile. Then he smiles again, stands, and offers his hand. I let it hang in the air unshaken. A flicker crosses his face, gone so quickly I could have imagined it. Very well, he says. Then we proceed formally. He leaves with the calm of a man who always has another corridor to walk. The woman in the gray suit falls into step behind him. The guard at the door does not look up. We stand alone in the gallery. The portrait man's eyes follow no one. Outside, the afternoon has turned the color of steel. We walk to the steps without speaking. Only when the wind finds us does anyone break the quiet. That was the architect, Theo says, and the offer, Jade adds. Serena nods once. He wanted a lightning rod. Elliot was never meant to survive the storm. Ashford expected to keep the roof. I look back at the museum's facade. It shines with the false permanence of institutions. Then we do it his way, I say. We do not just tell the story, we write policy, but we write it in public with courtrooms and committees and lights. Serena's eyes soften, not with relief but with recognition. Then we prepare for hearings. Night gathers early. At the inn, we map the next steps on hotel stationery. Legal filings in Luxembourg. Subpoenas for Helix Equity Group emails. A motion to preserve the ghost terminal as evidence. Requests for witness protection for Diane and for the 19 whose names filled our wall. As we work, a message arrives on my new phone. No sender. Only a link to an internal memo stamped with the seal of Helix Equity Group. I open it and feel the chill travel up my spine. The memo predates the first theft by a year. It outlines an initiative called Consolidated Creative Asset Management. The signatures at the bottom are neat, expensive, unashamed. Roland Ashford. Evelyn Hart. I stare at the second name until the letters blur. Jade takes the phone, reads, and hands it to Serena without a word. Theo lowers his head, eyes on the carpet, as if the pattern there has a secret. Evelyn introduced Elliot last night with a voice that sounded like integrity. She resigned this morning with a statement about accountability. She also signed the blueprint that turned people into assets. There is the twist the story was waiting to show us. The board's conscience is part of the machine. Serena closes her eyes for one breath. When she opens them, they are daggers and glass. We add her to the list, she says, and we move faster. We do not sleep much. We do not talk about betrayal. We file, we call, we write. Outside, Geneva empties its light onto the river and pulls a dark blanket up over the sky. Just before dawn, I step onto the balcony. The air is a cold hand on my face. Somewhere across the city, a bell rings the hour. I speak softly to the quiet because it is the only thing that can hold what I want to say. No more names in shadow. No more books under elegant hands. If leadership is a portrait, we will repaint it in daylight. By mid-morning, the investigation grows its own weather. Papers move like clouds. People move like fronts. Serena becomes a barometer in a dark suit, calibrating pressure with every call. I sit beside her on a bench in the corridor and read the memo again until the letters stop being letters and turn back into choices made by people with pens. At noon, the hearing opens in a plain room dressed up to look important. A long table. Flags. Water bottles with labels turned away from the cameras. Elliot is brought in through a side door. He looks smaller without a stage. His eyes find mine for a second, then flick to the empty chair at the end of the table reserved for Roland Ashford. Ashford does not come. Instead, his counsel arrives with a stack of documents and a smile arranged for endurance. He introduces himself and enters the room like a man who expects to win on points. Evelyn Hart arrives minutes later. No entourage. She sits near the back as if the chair is an apology. When she raises her eyes, they are steady in a way that used to convince me. I wonder how long she practiced that steadiness and for whom. The clerk calls my name. I walk to the table. The microphone is too close to my mouth and my voice comes out larger than I feel. I tell the story the way we built it in chalk. Identification, isolation, extraction, erasure. I place the memo on the table last and say the title without drama. Consolidated Creative Asset Management. I say the signatures. I let the room hear them. The counsel for Helix Equity clears his throat. Ms. Norman, you are a strategist by trade. Would you agree that you are talented at narrative? I would agree that I am trained to discern patterns, I say, and that this is one. He smiles gently. Do you know the difference between correlation and causation? Yes, I say. Correlation is a shadow. Causation is a hand. The room shifts. Someone coughs into a sleeve. Serena's pen does not stop moving. The counsel asks about my employment history, my awards, my grievances. He suggests I misread policy as theft. He suggests I am angry. I tell him anger does not change numbers. I tell him anger did not make money walk in red lines from account to account. He says misinterpretation. I say timestamp. He says zeal. I say memo. He says context. I say names. When he is done, I feel light and acutely tired. I step away from the table. As I pass the back row, Evelyn's hand touches her own wrist like she is checking a pulse. Theo testifies next. He explains ghosts without magic. He draws a map of the network with words a layperson can survive. He talks about mirrors and fingerprints and the patience of code. When he finishes, the investigators look like people who have glimpsed how the ocean works under the surface. Jade goes last. She brings the faces into the room. She shows the earliest drafts and the final slides that stole them. Her voice does not crack. It holds like a beam. Elliot is called to respond. He clears his throat the way men clear rooms. I was following board initiative, he says. I was told to align assets. My methods were aggressive, but I was building value. A question comes from the end of the table. Whose initiative? He hesitates, then says the name we already know, Helix Equity Group. And were you aware of Meridian's ownership structure? I was aware they were engaged for strategic support. And the directive to consolidate creative assets, the investigator asks, did you see the memo? His mouth opens and closes. I saw a draft, he says. I did not sign it. You did not need to, the investigator replies. You enacted it. When they ask about the ghost terminal, he shrugs like a boy caught with a switch. An executive dashboard. Everyone uses tools. The investigator reads a line from the memo aloud. The words sound worse in that voice. He asks Elliot if he recognizes the signatures. Elliot nods. He points to Evelyn's name and does not look at her. She does not look at him. The afternoon pulls tight. When they finally call Evelyn, the room leans forward the way a balcony leans over a street during a parade. She walks to the table with the careful grace of someone who has broken things and knows how to avoid cutting herself. Ms. Hart, the investigator says, did you sign this memo? Yes, she says. The word is small and clear. What did you believe you were authorizing? Standardization, she says. Protection of company property. It was an attempt to reduce risk in creative transitions. Did you intend for it to be used to strip authorship from employees? Something moves behind her eyes, a thought deciding whether to show its face. No, she says finally, but I did not ask enough questions to prevent it. Did you know Mr. Crane was transferring prototype data to Meridian Strategies? No, her answer arrives too quickly. She corrects herself. I did not have confirmation. Did you benefit from the increase in company value that resulted from these practices? She breathes out, yes. The room inhales and does not exhale for a count of 5. The counsel shifts in his seat. Serena's pen stops. Do you have anything to add? The investigator asks. Evelyn turns slightly as if the room is a place where she can still choose direction. She looks at me. I believed I was stewarding growth. I ignored the cost. I am willing to cooperate. The sentence is not an absolution. It is a door. Outside, a storm gathers without rain. The hearing adjourns for the day. In the corridor, cameras swarm. Serena steers us the way a pilot steers in rough air. Theo gets us to the car. Jade keeps the drives close to her body as if they need heat to survive. At the inn, we fall into chairs like we have been running on tilted ground. Serena orders food none of us taste and briefs the next steps in a voice that is beginning to sound like scaffolding. Luxembourg filings at 8. Protective orders for Diane and the 19 at 10. Press statement at noon. We will call for a shareholder meeting and a vote to freeze council authority pending inquiry. Theo's laptop pings. He frowns. He shows us a message that has burned its sender's fingerprints off. The source is the internal Aurora channel, the one that fed Elliot information. The text is simple. He is not the only one with a ghost terminal. Check the old server under the Rook codename. You will find the council's vault. Who sent it? I ask. Someone inside, Theo says. The header is clean. Too clean, they know what they are doing. Marcus, Jade says softly, and the room seems to know she is right. Marcus. A systems analyst who used to sit 3 desks down from me. The one Elliot moved to peripheral tasks. He had a gift for seeing the whole board and a face that never gave away which piece he would move next. We do not debate. We go. The federal building is closed for the evening, but Theo has credentials now that open polite doors. We find a quiet room and an older rack of servers that looks like an organ in a small cathedral. He connects his kit and breathes as if he is about to play. Rook, he says. A good name for a piece that moves straight until you forget how far it can go. Lines appear, old logs, new tunnels, a hidden directory that does not want to be looked at. Theo looks anyway. His fingers move. The vault opens like a throat. Inside is the story they did not plan to admit. Contracts, payouts, risk memos. Guides on how to rename a theft as a handover. Slides teaching executives which words to use when they remove someone who asks the wrong questions. A map of Meridian's payments to a cluster of shell firms that resolve back to Helix equity signatures. Jade covers her mouth with both hands. Serena whispers a word that is not for polite rooms. I do not speak at all. I save my voice for the morning. We copy only what we need. We leave the rest where it is so that no one can claim we took more than proof. When we are done, Theo closes the vault and resets the alarms. He wipes the air like a craftsman smoothing plaster. On the way out, my phone vibrates. Another anonymous message. A line of text that has waited years to be sent. The audit you just opened was written by Ashford's first chief of staff. She tried to stop him. She disappeared in a restructuring. I stop walking. The corridor stretches into a soft vanishing point. For a moment, I feel the weight of all the names that did not make it to our wall. Serena touches my shoulder. We will count her too, she says. Dawn comes late and pale. The morning hearings turn into a different animal when the vault files enter the room. The counsel for Helix Equity stops smiling. He asks for recesses and gets fewer than he wants. Evelyn's voice turns from defense to confession. Elliot leans back in his chair and watches his chances dissolve like sugar in hot water. We present the chain as a clean line. Memo to method, method to theft, theft to profit, profit to policy, policy to people. Names at every joint. It is not a performance. It is a repair. At noon, the lead investigator clears his throat and reads a statement into the record. The court will move to preserve the servers under the Rook codename and to freeze transactions by Helix Equity Group pending further review. Warrants are being prepared against named parties including Roland Ashford. He looks up. This inquiry is no longer about one executive. It is about a system. Outside, the street is full of voices. Some are angry. Some are relieved. Some are saying nothing because some people cannot yet afford to speak. Serena gives a brief statement to the cameras. Jade stands beside her with the stillness of a person holding a picture in her head she will not let go. Theo watches the building as if he can see current running through its bones. I step away from the microphones and stand where the stone steps meet the river air. My hands are cold but steady. The truth is heavier than I imagined when I said I wanted it. It presses, but it also holds. My phone rings, unknown number again. I answer because sometimes the truth calls you on the line you would rather ignore. Aisha, the voice says. Ashford, less smooth today. You have set a precedent you will not enjoy living in. I plan to live in it anyway, I say. You will make enemies. I already did. A pause, then the last tool he knows. You will be alone. I look at the faces near the steps. Serena on the phone with a prosecutor, Jade with her ink-stained hands, Theo with the code in his eyes, Diane somewhere under a protection order with a new name that fits her better than silence. The 19 in my mind, the unnamed chief of staff who tried once before the world was ready to listen. No, I say quietly. I will not. I end the call. The bells in the old part of the city begin to ring. The wind lifts the flags. People move messy and brave. Somewhere a child laughs. It is not a victory march, it is something better. It is ordinary life making room for a different way to be ordinary. We walk down the steps together. Serena touches my arm. Part 7, she says with the smallest smile. Write the code. 6 months is not a long time in the life of a city, but it is enough to change the way I carry keys. Geneva became courtrooms and corridors. London becomes rooms with windows open to air. The first office of the Norman Initiative is on the 3rd floor of a building that pretends to be humble. Sunlight lands on our desks like something we earned. We start with 4 chairs and a table that rocks. Serena brings a stack of draft bylaws and a pen that clicks when she is thinking. Theo brings a server in a black case and a white label that says keep honest. Jade brings plants that do not mind if you forget to water them and a wall of cork where faces can live without being erased. We do not call it a nonprofit at first. We call it a practice. The practice of keeping truth close to the work that made it. Our charter fits on one page. Protect authorship. Preserve evidence. Teach people how to write their names into the spine of what they build. No slogans. Only verbs. The first week is forms and headaches. The second week is visitors who knock softly and tell us stories that fit too well with what we already know. A photographer whose series became a brand without her. A chef whose recipes are now a chain restaurant menu with his smile missing. A coder whose module went global with someone else's name on the package. We take notes and we build the same square inside our chests we used in the cafe that first day. Small, strong, enough to hold what is coming. We design tools. Theo writes a script that fingerprints drafts without changing a pixel. Jade creates a visual ledger that shows how an idea grows from sketch to frame to finished work. Serena turns those into living policy, language any company could adopt if it wanted to be better than it has been. The Code of Creative Integrity, version 1, it is not poetry. It is a map. We test the map with people who should hate maps, agency heads, startup founders. The occasional board member who says they want to be good and might even mean it. We teach them how to measure contribution without turning people into numbers that can be stolen. We show them what proof looks like when a fight comes, because a fight always comes. We do not ask them to believe in us. We ask them to believe in the trail a name can leave behind. The invitations arrive slowly, then all at once. Podcasts, panels. A symposium where the chairs are very modern and the coffee is very bad. I keep my answers simple. This is not about punishment. This is about prevention. This is not about making villains. This is about making systems that do not require heroes to fix them. On a Tuesday that begins like any other, the email arrives from a school in Manchester where a teacher is trying to show teenagers how to hold on to what they make. We take a train north with a backpack full of stickers and a projector that hums like an old friend. The students sit with their arms crossed, and then uncross them when Jade shows how a signature can be a hidden layer inside a file that no thief will find in time. Theo tells them the true story of a ghost terminal and a server called Rook, and their smiles turn sharp. Serena explains that a contract can be a shield if the words are chosen like tools instead of ornaments. On the way back to London, the 4 of us are quiet in the best way quiet can be. It feels like planting. News from the case arrives in waves I do not need to surf anymore. Elliot pleads to lesser charges after the vault files settle on the record like stones. Ashford loses more than reputation. The council is restructured by people who still believe chairs can be redeemed if you change who sits in them. Evelyn testifies again, this time with fewer scripts in her eyes. Diane writes to say she sleeps through the night sometimes. The 19 find work or rest or both. None of it is tidy. It is better than tidy. It is real. The TED invitation is an email that begins with a compliment I do not trust and ends with a date I cannot ignore. Serena looks at me over the rim of her glasses. You can say no, she says. I can, I answer, I do not. The theater smells like sawdust and electricity. Backstage is a village of nerves. A volunteer clips a small microphone to my collar and tells me to breathe. I say the same line to myself I said in Geneva. This is not about revenge. This is about restoring truth. It still fits. When I step into the light, the room inhales for me. I speak plainly. I talk about the bench in the rain and the red light beside the bonsai. I talk about the blueprint of a thief and the blueprint of a repair. I tell them the code is not a rule book. It is a habit. You put your name where it belongs. You put other people's names where they belong. You keep receipts made of kindness and evidence. You refuse to be efficient at erasing the hands that held the work before yours. I do not mention Elliot or Ashford by name. I do not need to. I say a different list. The photographer, the chef, the coder, the teacher in Manchester. The teenagers who learned to sign their drafts like letters to a future that might try to forget them. When the talk ends, the room stands. The sound is warm. Later, I will watch the video and notice my hands do not shake. For now, I stand in the wing and let the adrenaline empty gently out of my bones. Back at the office, the plants look happier because Jade talks to them when she waters them, and I think they can tell that we are building something that wants to live. Theo has taped a new diagram to the cork wall. It is a loop like the old one, but this one goes the other way. Discovery, attribution, stewardship, celebration. It looks like a road I might want to walk more than once. That night, I work late alone. The city runs its soft sound outside our open window. The inbox is a river again, this time with more currents of good than harm. Still, buried between congratulations and invitations, there is a subject line that tightens the air the way a memory does. Another company. Same pattern. Need your help. I open it. The sender is someone in a different industry and a different country. The story is familiar where it hurts and new where the details will matter. I start a reply and stop, then pick up the phone and call Serena because some doors you do not open alone. She answers on the second ring. What did you get? She asks. Round 2, I say. Of course, she says. I will start the intake. Forward it through the encrypted channel. I forward it, then lean back in my chair. The ceiling in our little office has a water stain shaped like a continent no mapmaker would dare draw. I trace it with my eyes until the outline becomes less foreign. The room smells like paper and basil and the kind of courage you can teach if you do not pretend you were born with it. I turn to the whiteboard and begin to write version 2 of the code. Not because the first was wrong, but because habits get stronger when you practice them. The first line stays the same. Protect authorship. The second line becomes a question. Who else needs to be in the room when credit is given? The third line becomes an invitation. Teach this to someone younger than you. My phone buzzes. A message from Theo. He is on the roof with a laptop and a grin in text. The teenagers in Manchester forked the fingerprint script and made it pretty. Jade replies with a photograph of a new poster she is designing. It says your name is not decoration. Serena adds a calendar invitation that will become a training in a city I have never been to. I close my eyes and see the Geneva stage again, then the museum portrait, then the bench in the rain. They are 3 parts of the same lesson. The truth will not walk itself into the light. It must be escorted. I put the cap on the marker and sit in the quiet. The office hum is a gentle thing. I let it fill me. Tomorrow we will travel again. Tomorrow we will meet people who need to hear that they are not wrong for wanting their names to stay with their work. Tomorrow we will argue in rooms where people have practiced not listening. Tomorrow we will make them. I shut down the lights and leave the window open an inch because air is a kind of policy too. On the street, a cyclist rings a bell that sounds like luck. I lock the door behind me and carry the keys the way you carry a promise you finally learned how to keep. The new case comes from a city I have only visited in layovers and photographs. We set up a call with a team that sounds young and tired and brave. Their voices stack on the speaker like chords, a designer, a product lead, a researcher who keeps repeating that she kept the lab notes because her grandmother told her to keep everything. I ask for the first draft, the messy one, the one made at midnight when the idea still wobbled. She has it. She sends it. The file arrives with the clumsy title of a thing that has not learned its name yet. It is perfect. Serena draws the frame around the facts and shows them where the law can carry what courage starts. Theo fingerprints the early work and builds a chain that proves the path from the first sketch to the current product. Jade teaches them how to present their truth without shouting. We do not promise a clean win, we promise a clean record. That is what most people need first. A week later we fly out. The office we enter has white walls and plants that are trying to forgive the fluorescent lights. The leadership looks like people who have slept badly. They are polite and guarded. We sit at a long table and open our laptops like doorways. I speak first, not to accuse, but to place a mirror in the center of the room. This is what happened. This is who did the work. This is how the files changed when the signatures were removed. This is how you fix it. The chief executive listens without interrupting. When I finish, he closes his eyes for a count of 3 and opens them with the expression of a man who has just decided who he wants to be this year. He says the sentence I do not hear often enough. We will acknowledge the authorship and we will adopt your code. He looks at his legal head. Draft it. He looks at the team that called us. Thank you for keeping the receipts. We leave the building into evening light that smells like cold pavement and roasted coffee. Jade grins the way she grins when the plants do well. Theo is already writing a new module to make the fingerprint script easier to use. Serena checks her watch and tells me we have time to make the late flight if we do not mind running. We run. It feels like the kind of running people do when they are not escaping, only getting to the next thing. Back in London, the office has grown small signs of a life that intends to stay. A jacket on the back of a chair, a mug with a chip, a plant that refuses to accept the sun as a limited resource. On the cork wall, there is a new grid of faces, not the 19 this time, but the people who sent us updates after we helped them. In each photo, a person stands a little taller because their name sits beside the work it belongs to. There is a letter waiting for me on the desk. No return address. Handwriting is elegant. Inside, a single page from Evelyn Hart. She writes that accountability feels like heat you learn to breathe. She writes that she is working with regulators to design stricter requirements for attribution in filings and that she knows paper can be a shield or a veil. She writes that she cannot lend me her reputation, but she offers her signatures where they might help the right doors open. At the bottom, there is a line I do not expect. Thank you for insisting I look where it hurt. I place the letter in a folder labeled Bridges. Theo would prefer a better name. I tell him some folders deserve soft words. Diane visits the office for the first time. She stands in the doorway with the shy smile of someone who is learning how to inhabit her own edges. We make tea that is too strong and talk about non-work. She says she has started a course in archival science. She says she likes the idea that the truth can have a temperature and a shelf life. Before she leaves, she hands me a small flash drive with a ribbon on it. Old habit, she says. I put it on the shelf where the bonsai would go if I ever decide to trust myself with a living tree. The code grows into a handbook and then contracts and then a training series. We rename clauses so they sound like actions. Attribution is not a section. It is a practice. Evidence is not a threat. It is a companion. Stewardship is not an afterthought. It is an opening move. We release version 2 with a public license anyone can adapt. The first company that signs it is a studio in Lisbon. The second is a platform in Jakarta. The map on our wall accumulates small pins that look like scattered stars learning how to be a constellation. There are days when the work is quiet. I write emails and fix a comma and water the plants. There are days when the work is loud. A boardroom that wants to perform contrition. A panel that wants a soundbite more than a solution. A lawmaker who does not understand what a draft file looks like and needs to be shown, slowly and without condescension, how a creative life leaves tracks. On those days, I remember the bench in the rain and the first message and the way a simple sentence can be a rope thrown across a river. At night, I sometimes go back to the park behind the Helix Tower. The oak is still there, its leaves louder than I remember. The building looks different to me now, not smaller, not kinder, only obvious. I sit on the same bench and watch people who do not know they are walking through a place where a story turned. I feel grateful for the ordinary. I try to keep that gratitude like a coin in my pocket for the mornings when the fight is a narrow hallway and my voice is the only door. News drifts in from Geneva like weather reports. Elliot serves time and then writes a letter to the court that reads like a man trying to claim a lesson he has not yet learned. Ashford faces the kind of consequences that do not fit into headlines. Evelyn's new committee publishes a draft standard that looks a lot like our code, printed in a different font. Serena marks the sections in pencil and writes comments in the margins that say yes and almost and not yet. Theo jokes that policy is software but slower. Jade says good software waits for people and good policy should too. On a weekend when the air is clear and the city seems to approve of us, we host an open session in our office called Receipts Day. People bring early sketches, voice notes, scraps of paper with coffee stains. We scan and tag and teach. An older woman arrives with a shoebox full of recipes written in 3 different hands. Her mother, her aunt, hers. We take our time. We build a ledger that shows where each dish started and who added the spice that changed it. She leaves with a folder and a look in her eyes that belongs in a museum more than any painting of a man pretending to hold a book. Late that night, after the last cup is washed and the last light is off, I sit alone at my desk and open the inbox. There are 100 messages. Most can wait. One cannot. It is short. It is from a place that taught the world how to measure speed and forgot how to measure credit. Another company. Same pattern. Need your help. I should feel tired. I do not. I feel the soft ache of a muscle used well. I forward the message to Serena and Theo and Jade. I write 3 words to go with it. Same plan, better. The reply pings almost at once. Serena says she will draft an intake and reach out to local council. Theo says he will prepare a new vault blueprint that can catch a different kind of ghost. Jade sends a sketch of a poster that might hang in their lobby when this is done. It says make room for the names. I close the laptop and look out the window. The city has that late-hour shine that makes you think you are the only person awake, even when you are not. I think about the portrait in the museum, the hand on the book, the shadow across the face. I think about how leadership should look when it is written without varnish. I think about the sentence I am known for and how it still earns its place every time I say it. Integrity is not a policy. It is a habit. I turn off the lamp and pick up my keys. They feel lighter than they did 6 months ago because I carry them knowing which doors are mine and which ones I can open for other people. On the way out, I touch the little flash drive on the shelf like a talisman. The hall is quiet. The city breathes. I lock the door and the small click sounds like a new version number rolling cleanly into the world. On the street, a bus sighs at a stop, and a cyclist glides past with a bell that makes me think of the morning we ran to the airport with a case full of names. I walk toward home. Somewhere another office light is on, another draft is being saved, another person is wondering whether their work will remember them. It will. That is the promise and the code.